Have you ever wondered, can you communicate directly with spirit guides, teachers, or non-physical consciousness, or even our higher selves? What would they tell us? My name is Kevin Moore, and since 2015, I started to practice a form of communication which is termed channeling. I have been interviewing experts on my talk show to find out, does life continue after we die? And can we communicate with those that have crossed over? With each expert I spoke to, they all had different ideas. Is there knowledge from the past which could be shared with the present moment? So I thought, why not just speak to the non-physical world directly through channelers around the world? And that's what I set out to do. They Call Us Channelers will take the viewers on a journey into the phenomena known as channeling. And my main goal with this docuseries is to bring a new understanding and awareness to channeling by looking within ourselves and asking, is it truly possible that we can all use this innate ability?
Hi, everyone. My name is Zach Bay, and excited to be on with you all today. I'm coming to you today from Connecticut. Did not expect to be living here. I'm a DC native, Washington, DC in the States, and own some land out in the Arizona desert, reforest in the desert. So spread out a few places, but based currently in Connecticut, US. And my background is in education. I started off teaching high school, went to colleges, universities. I've taught a whole range of topics from history and politics to programming and robotics and web design. And throughout the whole life, like many people, I think listening can relate, of a bit of a feeling there's more, knowing there's more, have dabbled in the channeled fields in and out for some time at different stages we might get into. But as life would have it, for the last few years, I've kind of been working full time, I guess is what you would say, as a channeler, as a healer. And it's really, as some things are when we dive into them in life, they're not what we expected. I think we were saying this earlier. And so this whole process of what is channeling, what does it look like, how is it expressing what's coming through, has been far more transformative and leading to, not just in myself, but people I seem to work with, living bigger, being even more practically and immersed here, and just seeing how big and extensive and uplifted can we be in this life. So I'm really excited to be on here with you, particularly because big fan of everything you've done and all the people and variations of your work, and a really cool deep dive, and I think a service to a lot. So really fun to be here with you. The group I work with, names are funny, I think, as a lot of folks know. I had wanted to know a name or this or that, and things didn't resonate for a long time. And it wasn't until I was in a very deep state that I just started hearing this word Xoltal, which I had to go look up. I'd never heard it. And it turns out it's a Mayan word meaning to bow, or is later told reverence, which I studied a lot of Mayan history and astrology. They're very interesting. Civilization was down there in 2012 when the whole timing of all the calendars and all that stuff. So that connected with me a lot, but their energy is one of just upliftment, high frequency, and very practical application in what stuff goes through. But they say if given the microphone, they'll just talk about staying uplifted unless somebody asks a question, and then they can get more specific. So that is a little bit of an intro to me, my friend. And again, thanks for having me on.
No, Zach, it's my pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for coming on as well, and for booking with us. So when you connect with these, would you call them beings? Is it a group? Is that how you would perceive it?
Yeah, I think that it sometimes feels like a trifecta of beings. The more I try to figure out who else is there, the more blurry it becomes. But what I've learned from them is that they say part of our collective is actually what we think of as just the energy of life. They're like, we see that as being as well. So it's really just connected with all of the life. But yeah, so when I connect with it, it's I can feel it energetically, and it's taken some while to try to turn that into words or flow of things.
Yes, of course. So you can connect quite easy. It's a simple. What is the process for you actually?
Great question. It for a long time in my life, because even when I was young, I would feel and hear voices, I guess you could say, explaining how to breathe, control my heartbeat when I was very young, before I even knew what those things were. And so over time, that's kind of evolved. They would appear in dreams for some time. And then I set about, I actually was like, okay, I'm gonna learn how to channel. And I remember telling my brother, I'm gonna learn this. And I started practicing and learning and studying. And so through that, I've developed a process where now they come in pretty easily. I think in part like learning a language because I'm practicing and doing it more. And I remain fairly conscious to an extent. I've gone through the range of sometimes very present, sometimes, oh, what just happened? Yeah.
Yeah. Now I've had a look at your YouTube channel, which we'll put the link up on the screen in the description below as well. So you channel other beings as well, but would you say that Xoltal is the main essence that you're channeling right now?
Yes, I would. I will occasionally channel other beings and ones that I have an affinity, or sometimes honestly just as a challenge. Someone will ask, can you channel this group? I'm like, okay, I'll try it for a few days and see if I could tune in. And honestly, I think that something about connecting to this group Xoltal is something personal as well. I don't know if I have connection to other beings on the other side, or if it's just a higher realm that I could personally is a little bit more localized or easier for me to tune in with. But that has definitely kind of been the primary one I've been working, although I've done little deep dives here and there with other groups and collectives.
Right, absolutely. So your background is in teaching, in technical teaching, online teaching as well. And would you say that what you're doing now has become sort of the main business in a sense, or are you still got your feet in both worlds? Or
that's a really funny you ask that, because I had known for a long time that at some point things would shift for me. The kind of spiritual stuff would come more into the front line. I had thought I was supposed to leave all the other stuff behind. And now I'm finding, no, actually, in these times, like everything we've been through is supposed to build us into something even newer. So I thought it was like dropping one, coming on to another. And now they're much more integrating. And then that's turning into, okay, what's that going to build into from here? If that makes sense.
Interesting. So I think you were saying off air as well that the clients that you've got coming in now, it's all sorts of clients, right? It's not just like, what's my next relationship, or can I get him or her back? This is business. This is all sorts of things which are very practical, human wise, and kind of in the skill sets that you've got as well.
I'll tell you a story, Kevin, how funnily that caught me off guard is that I've built a few companies over the years. Teaching was always my primary, but I like doing multiple things. And when I get interested, I want to grow it. And so I was working with Xoltal. I was living out in the dirt and, trying to grow food and live that life, especially when like Armageddon and the world was changing and who knows what's happening. And they started to tell me, you need to learn how to build billion-dollar businesses. And I was like, wait, isn't this a little like not spiritual, Xoltal? Like this doesn't seem right. They're like, no, you need to learn how they operate. You need to learn how global production and infrastructure they talked about works and all of these things. And what I learned from, I would just agree. And this I was not expecting. They're like, go out, learn these things, find a coach, learn how to do this stuff. And I'd done successful, but never that level was in my wheelhouse. And what I learned from it were a few valuable things. One is that what we might think of as wealth or money and pursuing that in this world is a not spiritual thing. What my experience has been is that it is a very humbling spiritual process, not for everyone, but it certainly is in my experience and helping others through it. And that also, we talk about a new earth and these new agey kind of things, but they've made really clear that actually infrastructure is really important. How we organize people, how we connect with people, how we, everything that has gotten to us here, we could elevate it and do more with it. And so I was not expecting that. And so now we kind of Xoltal jokes that the 5D is like a marketing label a little bit these times, but there is some truth to a higher frequency to it, a more evolved, something in that light to it. And so some of my work is doing that with folks and helping them. What I've found is this, Kevin, that folks in this time, maybe let's just say that it starts with something, I want something different, and it turns into, let me try to learn and figure out how to do that. And that might take you down some channeled or interacting with channeled periods. And then some shifts happen. Maybe you call it healing, maybe you call it realignment, stepping into purpose. And then once you do it, and I've seen it again and again and again, it just clicks. And then it's like, well, now what are you going to do with your life? And now it's not, well, what ET family am I from? And what's this and that, to like, how do I share my love and light or pursue things in this reality and in this world? So I did not see that coming, buddy. Not what I expected. I thought I'd be living out in the desert, growing food, doing channeling from a van. And that was not what they have outlined.
Well, we were just talking off air, weren't we, as well? Just the power of AI and where AI is going to take humanity. And I don't, you know, of course I understand the potential dangers of it, right? But actually, I just don't see that world. I just don't see that reality. I see it, as I was saying to you, as a wonderful tool to help bring about balance, more balance, where, you know, those that have and have not, you know, there's more balance, that there's less of that. And I don't know, it's just it's just incredible. I just want to say that it's incredible, the potential of it. And we're such at the beginning stage of this fantastic giant leap of whatever this is going to become, that, you know, I was said to you, didn't I, that, you know, if you want to see the new Earth, AI is that reality. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's funny you say that. You know, I remember hearing from this one guy I really liked, and he would talk about this concept of the technosphere and how in the spiritual evolution of the planet, there'd be this period where the technology of Earth kind of shows us that things are possible, ways of connecting. And, you know, most of the prophets out there, especially in the channeling world, have talked about becoming more telepathic, talked about more collective consciousness. And I think we're seeing it like in data real time being built, and then we're all interacting. And I think we'll also get more intuitive abilities. I think what you were saying is so true. Like, we still haven't even got, you know, we've got these devices, but we've got to use our fingers when we could think to interact with them, and not from an embedded microchip. I think that the technology will continue to evolve in these ways. But, you know, how many channelers out there are teaching channeling? And if you go into ChatGPT and you say, okay, teach me how to learn how to channel, it's got some pretty good information if you learn how to ask it correctly. So that it becomes, when all information is known, what do we bring to the table? What can we do in a world like that? And that's an exciting, interesting thing. I haven't fully downloaded that yet, but I'm curious what it's been like for you, observing and learning and seeing all this.
Well, we'll get into that, because I want, you know, maybe we can ask that under, you know, when we do the channeling, and when you're under a bit there, and just see what answers come out. I think I know what the answer will be, but yeah. Do you find with your work that the clients that you're seeing right now, it's more about, or in a roundabout way, I don't want to put words in your mouth, right? But okay, you feel there's maybe people are coming to you to find what their purpose is. Is there a purpose kind of theme in the readings that you're doing for people and what people are searching for?
Yeah, I think before the purpose, there's a trying to understand reality and figure out what's real, what's right for them, what do they believe in, what can they go with, which isn't always, here's the right answer. It's helping them figure it out. And then it starts to evolve into, well, what am I going to do? What's my purpose? And what's been fun about Xoltal's energy is that they'll even joke about these kind of questions of like, well, you know, you're tired of hearing, oh, just be happy, just stay uplifted, just like live in love. This is really it. And then, okay, well, yeah, I get that. But technically in this kind of world, how does that operate? How does that come to? I'd say that's definitely a big theme. And when I work with folks, I keep seeing them then rocket ship into a whole nother world, and maybe channeling in some of these kind of questions interest them less. And maybe now, how do I live a more full life? Like, new things open. And once you connect with this stuff, whether you're learning to channel or I think even the process of connecting with it, it kind of opens your mind in a way. It opens your thinking. It shifts your maybe neural networks or energy fields, so that you don't go forward in reverse. You all that stays with you, all that openness, all that connection, and then it becomes what more, I think.
Absolutely. So if I was to ask you what is channeling to you, how would you answer that today?
I love that question, man. For me, it's the exploration of where do thoughts come from? Where do the greatest ideas, how do you trace them back and go further? Like if a good idea comes, how do you not just recreate it from I was thinking about this, or I'm going to get my brain to operate this way. Although I think that does help, but it's this, my own personal belief or understanding is that there are layers of consciousness and there's maybe realms of them. And if we could learn to connect and navigate to that, I think that comes in, it does something to the subconscious, the unconscious, and then thoughts and ideas start coming out of it. What I do when I bring in Xoltal and greetings and answering those questions or in a trance state, I think that these are just like a real small part of the spectrum of what channeling is to me. And I always like to say, man, if you talk to a musician and artist, I'm both myself, like just ask them, where'd that come from? I don't know. And I go, okay, so that's me in my car driving down the road of I don't know as a channeler trying to figure out like, are we closer to this? Or is there more of this energy here? Or are we veering the wrong way? So when it comes to like, is it this group or is it that group? How do we confirm this? How is this? How do we know these things? Honestly, if I'm being practical, like from some perspective, we don't, but then at a deep soul level, God, we do. So I think it's amazing, all of these things and how they all combine and interlace. And that's been my experience with it.
Well, thank you very much. Now, on your website, you offer a number of services as well. So if you just want to just go through some of the things that you offer, and we'll put your website up on the screen as well at the same time.
Oh, shucks. Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, let's run through a little list for folks. So it started off as just readings. And so I do some sessions and readings if folks have questions. I also have a background doing a modality of different healing and modalities, I guess you'd call them. So I do energy work, energy healing, healings of different varieties, some of it the more quantum and what I just call miracle healing sometimes. So offering that, but then my heart is as a teacher, right? So anything I'm doing, I'm also very much wanting to share with others. And I find that they soak this up as well. So I do channeling coaching, I do some energy healing as well. And lately I've been pursuing this vision has been building in me, an idea of a healer in every home. So figuring out how do we take the simplest ways, and I didn't make up that phrase, by the way, I've heard it before, but I'm really connecting with it, of how do you spread the simplest things to as many people to have the greatest impact. And so you could find things like this on the site in terms of services. From there, though, like I said, I'm also doing this 5D business coaching, which again is a little bit of a marketing ploy, but also not, because I think it isn't just traditional. It's how to grow it in a certain way with a certain frequency and get the assistance. You ever done business coaching where channel beings start to come in and give advice? It's a really fun boardroom to sit in. And then for some, just all around life mentorship. So we do have a program where we come in and doing sessions regularly and tracking things across all the areas of our life and getting that really interactive, in-depth. And that was a request of the guides that I've been working with, who said, we love sessions, but can you help us work with some people so that we could do it a few times in a row? Because that's really when the shifts start to happen. Imagine if you chain up boom and boom and boom and
mm-hmm. So. Mm-hmm. Well, then, if someone's interested in getting a session with yourself, what would you say is the best way for what can they do for themselves? The best things they can do for themselves to prepare themselves for a reading with yourselves to get the most out of it?
Oh, great question. I think the first thing is go, if they haven't yet, they'll hear it today. Some of the channeling, just listening to some of that Xoltal energy, that frequency. Oh, let me get is probably a good way, because what I've found is that in the session, regardless of what you ask, we're going to chat about things, but energy is going to start to shift. They'll have you do some breathing, maybe some movement, and really start working stuff around. So just tuning into that is a good one. And besides that, maybe just, what are your questions? What they say is if you come up to us with vagueness, we're going to funfully be a little vague with you back. But if you get specific about things, then we could get specific with you. So maybe think about what are some specific things you might have. Am I taking this path or this? Am I wondering this or that? Those sort of things.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And so the website for yourself is for the podcast?
Yeah, it's Xoltal, but let me spell it because it's a Mayan word. Xoltal. Xoltal.
Thank you. So let's just go back here to a younger version of yourself, right? So I can imagine that you've always been open, right? You've always had, there's always that side to you that we've all got, but it's just a bit more open for yourself for some reason, right? And what was that like growing up? Were there voices? Was there any sort of interaction at a younger age?
Yeah, yes, there was at a super young age. Like I mentioned, there was a lot of knowing. There was also a deep feeling, brother, of just like, this isn't right, man. Something's not right here. And I had a few of visitations of what you might call, or dreams or connections with beings over the time that showed me, oh, maybe there is other stuff here. But I would say as much as I was open and wondering and hearing things, I was also operating in like a child in the 90s, for if anybody is, that gives them context, but these weren't necessarily big things. So if you looked at some of my life, very happy, very big, but also some tough times, and also maybe going down avenues of like, I don't care about this reality because this isn't it, so it doesn't matter, and kind of some rebellion and other explorations in that variety. And it wasn't until I was older and a bit into later in schools and having some independence that I could start studying things more, connecting with groups, and kind of pulling in more support and understanding.
Yeah, because there's that kind of science side to you, the mathematical side to you as well. I think you've gone through your sort of phase of the mad scientist, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But with having that side and then balancing it with the spiritual side as well, the idea of, something's within the invisible, right? And I'm going to connect to that invisible, even though our best instruments can't even, detect such things. How did you balance that? And there must have been a process. There must have been a journey. I'm sure there was.
Yeah, absolutely. At first, it wasn't a balance at all, like a lot of extremes into different directions. But through some wonderful chain of synchronicities or series of events, I ended up in most of my 20s being connected with a really interesting Buddhist, Confucius, Taoist temple environment that really helped me go from like way, way out there and not caring to integrating with society and a life in a way that like I hadn't been able to meld those two. So once I started to figure out, oh, I could be way out there, but also this way here and present and contributing and engaged, and that took years, and I'm still wrangling probably to an extent of how to bring those two together. But it wasn't until then that they really became a little bit more massaged for me.
And then there was the sort of kirtan era as well, where I think that was the kind of process of opening you back up again, or you can describe it for us in a sense.
Yeah, I love the research you do, by the way. Yeah, so I had always done yoga, and that had been a part of it. But kind of after the temple times, I shifted into doing a lot of Kundalini yoga and teaching that, and playing kirtan, and honestly, all this that was out of an exploration of like, how do I sustain these energies? I found this, and I found that like, oh, the singing and that wafting. I'm sure if you've ever left some music on, like it could kind of carry that energy to an extent. So that was really fun for me. And yeah, maybe it went a little bit off to this way and then kind of a little bit this way. And it's been this kind of ebb and flow. And I don't know if anybody could relate to this, but we're multifaceted beings. So if you had known me, you might not have known that any of this stuff was going on. Or if you knew me from that, you might not know that I was also working at like a huge tech startup teaching 80,000 people during the day, So like that has been really, really interesting for me. And I think a lot of people could relate to going through having multiple.
Yeah. Would you say you've always, thank you for that. Would you say you've always been a sort of sensitive type then? You've always picked up on energies quite easy?
Yeah, I would say, and I don't know how or why. I mean, I have my guesses and I have my assumptions, but there's definitely ranges of how we come to this life, and have definitely been on the more sensitive side,
Right.
seeing things, feeling things.
hmm So when
Yeah.
you've gone into this work now, how has the family sort of taken it? Are they like, oh, well, that's just Zach? Do you know what I mean? Zach's always been that way in a sense. And, we love him, and if that's what he wants to do, that's cool. As long as he's not hurting anyone and it's helping people,
Yeah.
which it is. But yeah, I mean, are they shocked? Are they,
They're not shocked at this point, man. Of all the things I've explored and avenues I've gone down, and I go down them hard. My dad told me once, years after being in these temple environments, he's like, I thought they were going to sell you into sex slavery, man. Like, I was worried about you. I thought you were a Jehovah's Witness. And no shame upon them, but he was using it in a term of like, I really didn't know what's going on. And now he sits there and he asks me every time I go to visit, he's like, I don't think I quite understand what you're doing, son. And there is this aspect. And it's interesting. You asked us about opinions, and generally I'm not big on like, hey, it matters what other people say too much. But part of what this is evolving into, the more I'm doing it, is how do I do what I'm doing in a way that can be shared with more people, which is more approachable. And I notice people are much more open-minded today, and there is this openness, but I'm still exploring and moving and journeying towards what maybe is, again, beyond the channeling that we could all relate to, right? That we're all doing in some way or another. And so that's still an evolution for me. And I like to use my family as a kind of feeler, whether it's the family in my head, which we all have, right? The one that we make up. And then there's the real life family, but using them both. And that's where kind of like, oh, okay, well, if they think it's this, then maybe if it was evolved to that, or it was presented this way or shared through this form. I've always liked to say, I don't like to get beliefs come between me and another person when I can.
So obviously religion's played a part in your childhood then, of course. And how, with the work that you're doing now, do you balance, or how do you see it now in the sense of religion and the work that you do?
Oh, great question. I guess my personal take would be that a lot of the religions have different perspectives on maybe a lot of the same thing. I guess when I work with people, it's like, how can we go deeper into where you're at? Or how do we uncover wherever your perspective is, going from that point out? And I have soaked up religious study. Like it's always like, oh, study this and that and this and that. And the esoteric, the traditional, and kind of from all over, just because I was trying to soak it up. And at this point in my life, I'm not a master, not necessarily, but also I don't feel the same yearning for all that. It kind of lives within me. I get to maybe back burner or not ignore it, but it's less on my radar. So it's funny because when you asked me, I was like, man, on a day-to-day, I don't even think twice about it, except that sometimes I'm in an area with a lot of Catholics, and I know generally they might react a certain way. So I try to present something a certain way to keep that connection going.
Well, I guess the reason I ask it as well, because obviously you come from a religious family, and getting past that stage of doing this work of caring what people think when it's so close to you as well personally. Now, had their family been totally 100%, supportive of it, which I'm not. Well, some people have a different journey in this process, don't they, when they start this type of work, right? You've got this particular one. You've obviously got it for a reason. Are you past that part of the process, do you think, or you're working through it, of caring what people think when it's so close in the family to have that there? Or do you think that actually helped you get past even quicker and to really not care? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think two levels to this. On a deep, like me soul level, I've kind of been a rebel and cut against the grain enough that I wouldn't say I don't care, but I could still operate and do what I feel very driven to, even if not everybody is on the same page with me. Like I could keep moving. And I do use that as a way to think like, well, how how would I connect with them? How could I share something like this? That does come up for, and it's a weird divide, to be honest, when I'm like, oh, I want to pull this person in or this person in, but it doesn't quite resonate with them, or seem strange, or I honestly, I'd probably be a little nervous. I don't know if I could do channeling for my dad, for instance, even though he's seen my videos. If he was sitting right there, it would be a little weird.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just being real with you.
You never know. Hopefully he has seen them, but or maybe he hasn't. Who knows, right?
I'll probably send him this, and bless his heart, he will go and he'll look into things.
My perspective of the question is, I feel, and I may be wrong saying this, right, but there's a potential that we do choose our families, right, for certain lessons that we're going to have. So that, everything plays its part. And, it's all there for a reason, to shape us of maybe the potentials of what we want to get out of this lifetime. The markers aren't there, I suppose you could look at it as. And, but that's just my understanding of it. It doesn't have to be anyone else's. So there was, we were talking about sensitivity. The sensitivity was there in the sense that you could pick up on things. Does that make you, is it difficult to watch certain types of movies then for you still? Do you find that difficult?
Yes, I find it less difficult because I have worked a lot to try to stay open, but strengthen myself. But definitely the things I watch will have an impact. And some stuff I can't even, not even that it's that bad. My partner is an incredible actress. So when she watches something, she wants it to be emotional and dramatic, not because she's getting caught up, but because she appreciates the art. But when sometimes I try to watch that, it's like, oh my God, this is too intense.
Right. So we're not doing the next Evil Dead movie then, I guess. That's not going to be.
It hasn't, but I'll tell you, when I was in the temples, one of the masters there, it always cracked me up. He loved to watch horror movies. And you would think that here's this very advanced spiritual being, but he just sort of watch him and be lightly entertained and chuckle, and I would feel uncomfortable for a while after something like that.
Yeah, well, I've interviewed people like Dee Wallace, and she's from the E.T. movie. She loves doing the sort of budget kind of whatever you call it, but budget type of horror stuff, and yet she's full into this spiritual work. So I guess it's different for everyone, isn't it? I guess it is. Yeah. Coming to this reality, right? We need some entertainment, don't we? And I don't know if I could give up my movies. I don't think I could do. So yeah, but no, it's interesting.
At this point, I'm a little more relaxed. I'll watch some things for entertainment when it's of the vibe of okay, is this going to keep me at least overall entertained and uplifted?
Yes, I get that, and I guess we live on a planet where some people are awakened and some people are not, and we're all at different stages, aren't we? And that's just the way it is. That's what we come here for.
And sometimes at the same stage, we see it so different too. Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely, we do.
It's a wild place, this planet now at the moment, isn't it?
Well, yes, it is. I was going to say for these reasons, that reasons, but I'll just say yes, it is. And this is that part of the awakening, isn't it? This idea that people talk the 3D to 5D, but yes, it's how can I put it into words? There's a lot of change. That's one way of saying it, and I think with change, that brings evolution, doesn't there? And we are way overdue it, probably.
I'll just say yes to that one, my friend. It's been coming.
Yeah, it has, and we all thought it was 2012, didn't we? Or those of us that were into it, but maybe that was just the very beginning part of it. Maybe it hadn't even registered, but there was a date set where it would be talked about. But we are in it now, and I guess who says evolving and awakening was going to be easy? It's not. But and when you think about it as well, the idea that we come here as a soul to have a human experience, and there's many experiences that we can have. You would need a planet like this with so much polarity to be able to have all those multitude of experiences. they talk about the new earth in the sense that there'll be, people that want to be really destructive. They will not be coming back. They will go elsewhere, not to hell or anything like that, but to maybe other realities that look like this in a sense. But it won't be with some destructive souls that have been here so far, that we need probably for this experience, but not forever.
Yeah, I think that that from that framework of looking at it and the perspective on the earth journey at these times and the dualisms, they could definitely be powerful teachers, especially when it gets pressurized right down to like personal issues and what's going on in our life and choices we have to make at that level.
Absolutely. So part of your journey as well, and the inspiration of the sort of the take on channeling that you've got now was Tina Spalding. Now, for those who don't know, those in this field will know she's a well-known channeler. And what did your experience with Tina do for you, do you think, on this journey? How did it inspire you?
Well, it's really funny you mentioned that, that it worked as a catalyst. And as we've kind of wound about, my path has been windy and often from this direction to this and underlaces here and this here. And so I had never been to a channeling event, I guess I would call it. I've done a lot of retreats and workshops, and this was the kind of first take on it. And I found her, by the way. She has a great autobiography of Jesus, a channeled text. And I had for a long time been trying to read every take and story I could find on the man, who his energy, his story, being the God, whatever, it all fascinates me. And I feel something personal with that. So I had found that, and I had a free time, and I thought, let's jump over and go to this event. And I'm sitting there, and it's, first of all, I'm used to like long meditations or breath work. I was like, this is nice. I could just relax. And being in that energy, something happened where I described it as feeling like I just cracked open. And all this, it was really joy, permission, remembering all of the different connections I'd had, whether they were ET or higher frequency, and really just this energy of, man, it doesn't matter. Just trust, live as if everything were true to you, And it was just such a fresh energy. I could feel it coming in now, that it cracked me up, and I was just there laughing. And so that really served as an impetus, getting to know her a bit and some communities. And now from here, I've gotten to know so many channelers, and through your work as well, honestly, has introduced me to a lot of people as well. And I keep finding more every day. It's
I know, right?
Amazing.
I thought I was going to be stopped at that show 50, and I was like, how is there more? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I didn't expect there to be so many channelers, and there's more. There's many more, pretty more than I'll ever interview.
Now, do you think there's more now than there was even a short period ago, or are we just accessing it all? Meaning, learning about other people.
Good question. Potentially, yes, but also there may have been the case that they may have always been there. It was just for those seeking out that particular type of energy exchange, right? But there also is the case that probably there is a few more now. Maybe it's, it's definitely a term that you use a lot of people saying, even just on regular TV, right? Oh yeah, I'll channel that character, or I'll channel that energy. Yeah, I think there definitely is an increase, but I think they were always there. But maybe it's a time that we're living in right now that there's that perspective, but also maybe there's many forms of channeling, isn't there? I don't know if you've ever practiced creative writing as a potential aspect of channeling, or and there's many ways, not just creative writing, but many ways to you could even say maybe maybe some of what we call psychics or mediums are actually channeling that information. Maybe that's a form of channeling. We don't even understand that it is. Maybe it's all the same, all the same. It's the same connection, the same energy it's connecting to, but it's just a different modality of doing it, a different aspect of doing it, maybe.
That's so interesting to hear your take and perspective, because you've delved into quite a few, and my feeling was always that maybe there are more, or that ability is more, or maybe it's just becoming commonplace. And it really has, and to be able to channel, and Yeah, I've tried doing the writing so many times, and it's one of the hardest forms for me. But having background in music, I can tell you, oh, that kind of channeling just flows through. And
Right, there's
even
another
trance
form. Yeah, music.
playing,
Yep.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And that is so true. Well, it's some of these great artists, they were, even though like the Beatles would say it just came to them, wouldn't they? Paul McCartney would say it was just in my head. It just came to me, or it was from a dream, right? Yeah, yeah. I mean, you could. I mean, if you want to call that from God, yeah. I mean, God's just a word to me, but it's of the same energy, in some respects. Yeah. So, do you call yourself, or do you ever vibe with the word starseed? Is that something that you connect with?
Yeah, I like that term a lot. I personally like it, just personally. Yeah, I love it. The thought that we're a multiplicity of beings and there's this fabric and this blueprint and all these combinations of things, for me, that super duper resonates.
Okay, so what is the meaning of that for you then, for your perspective?
That's funny. I've never really tried to define it, but I'd say the energy of the word to me feels like super excited starlight flew across these universes, came into some energetic form, and that's what keeps me vibrating. My vibe, my energy is coming from literal, metaphoric starlight. So it almost makes me feel like I'm running on this super high frequency. And that to me is more the meaning than necessarily I'm from the Lyran star system. By the way, you asked me about my parents. My mom passed, and I did not expect it, but I started channeling her when I started trying to channel the Lyran beings, and she came through as one of them, which I was not expecting. Talk about a weird feeling. I'm going to channel my mom now from the Lyrans, and so I did. Ended up a little tangent there. Sorry, buddy. But,
no, that's interesting. Yeah.
It's
okay. Well, let's just wrap up on this, and we'll get to that, right? So, and no, that's interesting. So, in a sense, then, I mean, maybe I would say to you, maybe it's, maybe your take on starseed, from what I'm hearing, is maybe your spiritual connection to the universe. Then,
I like that, or I might even say an energetic, less spiritual. It's almost like, if we think of ourselves as biological beings, I do feel that we have an energetic blueprint, something like not just our DNA, but something that's vaster or more subtly existing in that realm. And so when I think of starseed, that energy, that field of mine gets charged and activated. So that is alive for me. But I'll tell you this, Kevin, when it comes to talking about and sharing, and you wonder, what do I put on my website, or how do I present this to others? Like, hey, starseeds. I do a lot of starseed videos, which I love, but I've personally found that a lot of people I connect with and work with, they're like, yeah, I'm a starseed. But if I were to ask them, hey, does that term define you? If you were to look at something and say, oh yeah, I'm a starseed, I fit into this, a lot of folks don't necessarily align with it, even though they know that they do. It's like a really interesting yes and no and but situation.
Well, you could say the same word for channeling. It's got the same word for psychic. They're
yeah.
I mean, well, I would always say that channeling is on the fringe of the whole paranormal, spiritual, exploration, in a sense. Maybe not so much more as really as we've kind of talked about. It's kind of become less on the fringe, but it was. And yeah, these are just words, aren't they? Some people don't like being called a psychic or a medium because of the connotations that they would rather be called a sensitive. But it's the same thing, right? We have to use words, though, don't we, sometimes? And that's all we've got.
It's funny. You mentioned words, and you mentioned AI and bigger thinkings, and something that these guys, whoever they are, whatever you want to call them, have told me, I've heard for a long time, is that we're going to have to find new language, or we're going to have to evolve our language to mean more than it does, or the way we communicate become more comprehensive. Because just like you said, how do you communicate? How do you share these things? And so as a teacher, looking back, I realized they were something was nudging me the whole time towards like, hey, there's going to come a time when you got to figure out some new stuff, and you got to explain things that are tough to do with words, and I'd say that teaching energy healing, that fits in that category.
Right. Yeah. Well, Well, a lot of people could resonate with that, and the energy healing. That's, people, that's more mainstream, isn't it, in a sense as well? Yeah, same thing, isn't it? Though it's all the same thing. But you just made me think there. Actually, we were just talking about what you just mentioned there. Like, when you think about the AI, you think about maybe if there are other civilizations out there, which I'm sure there are. Maybe part of their pinnacle, sort of. A defining moment, a pinnacle moment in their evolution was when they look back, was AI, their own AI, when they created it and what that did to their civilizations. And I mean, in a positive way, right? Not the Terminator kind of way, right? Yeah, and how that, and that we're there now. That's exciting. That's so exciting.
It is super exciting. And I do want to throw out something, and this might just be the semantist or technologist in me, and I might be off, but this word AI, just like I think 5D does, it gets thrown around to mean so much. And from my understanding and experience, we're talking just about really advanced computing, really advanced self-learning algorithms, and the label AI, especially like within some of the spiritual circles, oh, there's an evil AI and it's going to take over the universe, and these sort of things, or even the autonomous, it could think for itself and independently operate. Maybe we are there in some of that, right? Or that's part of it. But for me, I like to think of it as like, hey, we just have really advanced abilities, and they're able to do a lot of things easier. And that kind of keeps it in this realm of, wow, we've had these advances before in our history, and they're going to keep evolving us. So I do think it's going to be
it's historical.
Really interesting. Even
these
though leaps.
Yeah, it's a leap. Even though they've probably been working on AI for decades. Yeah, the leap that we're at now. I mean, I think some of the technology was. I think one of the founders had based it around dissecting the brains of mice, mice or rats, right? And actually looking into the way that they're the chemicals and the electrons kind of connect with each other, but maybe part of the misunderstanding of some of this is actually, this thing will almost have a consciousness one day, and because we don't understand what consciousness is, and could consciousness come in and want an experience, in the AI system, right? I'm not saying, I don't even know what I'm talking about, right? But when you hear some of these big thinkers right now talking about, well, we don't understand consciousness, right? And what if we've actually created something here that actually has got the potential, or actually is conscious in a sense? To have those kind of conversations in mainstream science is even amazing. Do you know what I mean? So it's definitely a changing times. If you want to add anything to that, you can do, but I just want to mention your mother as well.
Well, I'll just say fascinating times, my friend. I got asked once when I was getting my history degree by a professor, what's your favorite time period? This man always dressed like he was from the 20s, even though young man. He said, right now, man, it's never been like this. And they kind of scoffed at my answer. They thought I was being showy, but oh, man, these times are remarkable. And I think that might be the starseed energy I connect with, of like, okay, I'm here. Something incredible is happening. I want to be a part of it. Let's go.
Yeah, which kind of makes you want to be more here and more present in a sense, than rather than, too worried about where we're going to, which I think is important, but not to get lost in that. In a sense as well, we're here to have a human experience. So when your mother came through as well, what was the strongest message? What do you think was the most important message to you?
Oh, brother, I think the first thing I had was quite a profound. I'll try to describe the experience that I had. When my mom passed, who, by the way, was an angel on earth, like, oh God, blessed, sweet, dear being. And I felt, oh, I could connect with her. I think some folks who have had family pass, or other people, in a way, it's totally sad and you miss them, but in a way you feel with you even more. And some folks might have had that experience. So I had that. And honestly, my grieving process is very different, I think, because of that, because I'm an Aquarian and out there to begin with. But that was part of it. So when I started to feel her and feel like, oh, she wants to come in, and I will put a beautiful qualifier right there. This is my experience. This is my internal making sense of whatever it is I'm going through. But for me, the process was that she wanted to come in. And what it did was I had this whole internal emotional, like, I'm fine. It's okay. I'm still connected with her. And all that just got pushed right out of my chest, right out of my field. And I started to feel like, wait, I could be loved. I could connect even more than I ever thought. This is an even more fantastical, crazy connection. And when I felt her wanting me to share her love and give a higher teaching in a lifetime that wasn't even connected with her as my mom necessarily, that took some, I don't know what the channeler gall, some real courage and also humbling and practice to try to open up and let that stuff through. And so that was a powerful experience. And her message the message was less for me. She wanted to come through me. And it was actually kind of informal, if I'm being honest with you. I felt the love, but the energy I got from her was like, I need to share this. Now you're one of these people out there sharing these attunements and these activations. So here you go, share this. And it was very much a like you might hear in an activation, okay, relax, breathing, connect to light, feel your system uplift, activated some tones and dings and beautiful expressions. And I think that there's more down the road, but it really seemed to be more in the energetic attunements, activations, DNA type activations that you hear. That was the message that was coming through.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that as well. Now, I know that we're 50 minutes into the interview. And
had a good combo.
We did. If there's anything that you would like to, if you think there's anything we've not included, then we can just talk about that now. But if you want to do some channeling, then I've got a number of questions, right? So I say, if you're ready to do it, then yeah.
Let's turn it over, man. I'd love to do that. Let's do that.
Okay, wonderful.
I'm gonna
now, if you want to
drop my chair down here and have a seat.
If you want to talk about your process in the process of connecting to the channeling that you're going to demonstrate as well, then yeah, please do for people.
Sure. So I find in general it happens pretty quick. It comes through, and definitely the vibration I tend to be at, my state, affects how easy it is to come through. Sometimes if I'm not fully present, it'll feel like work. Like you ever show up to work and you haven't slept last night, it feels like that energetically. But it comes through pretty quick, and I feel great. The energy is very uplifting. So sometimes I get lost in that. Most of the time I'm aware of what's happening, and it's almost like, Kevin, I start to see through their eyes. They see reality in very differently and laugh and experience it very differently. And I just shift into seeing it their way and go for the ride.
Cool. Okay. And like you say, it's a pretty quick connection as well. Well, actually, yes. Are you sort of a conscious channeler that you're consciously aware of what's being said? Because obviously there's the deep trance channelers where they wake up and they're like, I have no idea what was said through me. But yeah, what type are you, would you say?
Definitely more on the conscious variety. I wanted to be an unconscious channel. I think it's so cool. I think it's amazing. It fascinates me personally. And I'm like, that's the best kind. I want to do that. What has started to happen, Kevin, is I started to be less and less present. Like you get what you wish for, some kind of thing. Yes. And then I realized, wait, I'm missing out on the stuff that I want to hear. Right. So I've got to shift it back, and it's a milky medium.
I was going to say that to you. Yeah, you'd be missing out on what was said. But maybe that's just, at the time you wanted that just to really test yourself in a sense. Is this
yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And honestly, there's probably a smidgen of ego that I've since looked at and been like, okay, how important is it? Let's not get caught up in the labels. And well, you could go ahead and ask, and then I'll turn it over to them, and they'll come in. They have a hello greeting, and then they'll jump right in.
Okay. All right. Well, so many questions. I think I'm going to start the first question off with the way that the world is right now. Is this the sort of, I'm going to use these words, right? Like the great event that was, predicted by many that this would be the shift that the times that we're in now from 3D to 5D in a sense.
Greetings, dear ones. We say this with love and with light. It is a joy to be here, a joy to get our hands on the bicycle wheel and wobble around with you in this world a little bit. Yes? Yes. So let us share that from our perspective, our ideas and experiences and explorations of time are a little bit different. And this is not to avoid the question. We will get into it. But imagine if you could peel back a label on a sticker easily and pull out a wave or an ocean from it. And then you could fold it back up and the sticker goes there. And you never knew that there was a body of water so big on the sticker on your little fruit. Yes? So when we look at these times and these events that you call them, it isn't about an acceleration, a possibility, and all the energy there to bring these about. You yourself may have even felt, wow, there's a lot of energy to maybe create something, to maybe do something, to explore something at these times. Yes. So from our perspective, although we have heard yes, it's going to be Big Bang number 2, and we're all beautiful and sitting in the clouds. Yes. From our perspective, it is more a longer term unfolding, thousands, millions, billions of years, but it's perpetually this way. It is always this way. However, we would say from one perspective, you are at the beginning of a great cycle. And what is present at the beginning of the great cycle is all of the energy of what's to come. Yes? And so this is very much what is alive at these times. Yes?
Interesting. Yeah. So at these times when there's great conflict on the world stage, which is just the times that we live in. Yet on the other hand, there's AI. There's like this duality of greatness of things going on at this very beginning part of this change that you predict as well. When you talk about the length of that cycle.
Yes. Yes, when you squeeze the toothpaste tube, all the colors in the toothpaste come out together, do they not? Yes, it is a little tricky to separate it out. But what we will say is this, is that while there might be a lot of energy around thinking the planet is a certain way, and there's this and this and this that is so bad, but there's also this that is so good, but also this that is so new, from our perspective, and we will say it is simply but a perspective, but we have our eyes on you, yes, is that many more are open-hearted than not. Many more are opening. Now, what that looks like for each one is unique, but there is this theme of this. And just like with what you call your chat bots that know everything, and you could chat along with them and ask them all of this stuff, this is also a reflection of how deep and powerful all of you are. And that you are just scratching the surface with, wait a minute, biologically, psychically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, even just what your planet is capable. If they all came together emotionally, what would be possible? Yes. So from our perspective, this is a bit of a beginnings, eager beavers, the buds bursting through the soil across all areas. Even what is happening on your global stage is maybe not as bad as some may make it out to be. This is our view, yes?
Yeah, I mean, I feel sometimes that just recently that I've shifted reality. Do you know what I mean? Because what AI means to me personally as well is I'm going to be using that a lot soon, and it's going to help so much. And I don't see the negativity in it. I see it as a positive thing for humanity.
Yes. Yes. Well, we will just tell a little story, yes, that there were times where there were beings who felt that fire is a big no-no and don't play with that, yes? And look at what that has done, yes? There have often been things that seem a little for some, and yet what others can make of it is indeed a wonder, is it not? Yes? Yes.
Yes, absolutely it is. And if I said, what would be your perspective if I said, is there a war on consciousness? What would you say to that?
Okay. Yes. If you want to see a war, then you can see a war. Yes. Yes. From our perspective, it is more, well, what is going on with consciousness? As you have said, yes, we have been listening in a little bit. What is consciousness? How do we know what its inner workings truly are? Yes. So from our perspective, it is more you are just beginning to understand more and more and more. And there is no attack, but there are effects. And you are finding, these sort of things, maybe they're having a bigger impact than we thought. Yes. And maybe we want to become more conscious of shifting. Yes. But from our perspective, yes, we see some people under attack, but more from their own thoughts than from something that is really there going boogie woogie man on them. Yes, you understand?
Isn't that the truth? Yeah, yeah. Well, especially with the ego, maybe a fight with the ego with some people on this planet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. When it comes to AI, then, obviously, I've had many conversations with different people about the idea of what is consciousness, and even, you kind of mentioned that there as well. But is it possible that consciousness is wanting to have an experience in all sorts of different modalities? And, we talk about maybe the consciousness of a rock, consciousness coming down to have an experience of being a rock, right? I don't know if that's true or not. And I would never know in this lifetime until I've crossed over if that was a truth. But I feel it's a potential. But then what's the potential of consciousness wanting to come in and have an experience in AI?
Okay, yes, let us open this up a little bit. Yes, yes. So there are a whole lot of things said, and a big question here indeed. Yes, from our perspective, you will never really know. Yes, and yet you will always know. Isn't that the case? Yes, that many beings think, on the other perspective, we know it all, but we are still learning. Yes, yes. So from the perspective of consciousness, if we are to use the term that everything that within your realm of life, yes, that all of it is conscious, yes, then you could see that many things are conscious to many levels, to many extents. From our understanding, you talk about the 3 to 5D perspective, but really it is a near infinite spectrum, yes? And it is not just one line. There's overwhelmings, there's different shapes, there's different sizes, there's all of this. So from our perspective, it is less, is consciousness over here waiting to come into this? Or is it rather where there is awareness, where there is focus, there is more of your consciousness gathered, and it affects everything because it is the underlying substrate of a conscious reality, yes? Yes. So from our perspective, we have often shown this one many advanced, what you would call visions of advanced cities. Yes. Yes. Because he had questions and feelings. Wealth is no good. We should not talk about these things. And we would show him magnificent places and go, okay, well, this was not made with money. But how much abundance, how much life, how much working together, how much visionary do you think was needed? It's a very big amount. Yes? Yes. So what we would encourage beings at this time is to take what you have available and become visionary with what you can do with it. Because we will tell you something you already know. Hey, how about this? That a boat depends a lot on where you steer it. Yes? The knife depends a lot on how you use it. Yes. And the technologies, the intelligent systems that from our perspective are very much connected with you all. There is this great interlacing between your data banks of data, your interpreters of data, your feedback and interactive systems of data, and your own thought consciousness. It is all a little more soupy than it might sound. Yes. If this is making sense. Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for that. How would you feel if I mentioned parallel realities? Are there such things?
Yes. Well, we can say that from one perspective. There is only reality. Yes. And then you have known from your own experiences that you could have multiple realities at once existing within your own mind. Yes. Now we understand that this is a very simplified version. But what we often try to communicate is that the most advanced, the most out there, the beyond the veil stuff bears more resemblance to what you were experiencing now than you might expect. Yes, as any seeker of the truth finds, oh, it's simpler than I thought. Yes, yes.
Potentially, there could be another reality where we, Zach, myself, and others are all existing in the same kind of look, yet AI never penetrated the timeline at the same time as what's happened in this timeline.
Yes. Okay. So if we are to broach this topic a little more, where awareness is focused, yes, there is more of that focus. So if you were to call this reality at this moment a timeline, yes, or a dimension, yes, and even as your thoughts vary, you might shift out and have a slightly different experience than even this one, certainly than we are having here with you now, yes? And so if this is always morphing around this one, yes, there are also parallel or alternate or all of it happening at once, as you have heard, yes? All of it simultaneously. Why? Because the consciousness is all. It is all that is. And so in various permeations, it is exploring all of it, is it not? Yes. Yes.
Well, I want to stay in the realities. If I do shift, I want to stay with where there's AI. I'm only shifting to where there's AI from now on, because I just see it as a great business, but and all the great things it's got to offer as well. Are we constantly shifting then? That would be the next sort of question. I guess we are.
Yes, we would describe very much your journey as a continual opening and closing, a out breath and in breath. And with each mix of this cycle, you understand if you see yourself as a body or a localized field, you are always rotating, and that is constantly changing and evolving. Yes. So your awareness and perspective is trying to keep something together here. Yes. But it is often always shifting. And in these times, when things are more highly charged, yes, some of the behavior begins to shift. Yes. When you get very charged in any polarity direction, you begin to have different results. So at this time, there is a high energy around the planet that is affecting things. So the and things overlapping and coming and going, or from our perspective, it is like some of your films where they play back multiple scenes at once, or time lapsey. There is a little bit of this experience. Yes.
That's interesting. So thank you. Yeah. Let's just shift that question then to tie it in with law of attraction. So in that sense, then, if I say that I already am it, or I already have it, yeah, then are you bringing yourself to a destination point there where you're shifting into a reality where it is there?
Yes. Okay. We love your question. Then we are having a good time with the mind. Yes. Thank you for this opportunity. Yes. Yes. So one moment, please. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Very well. Please restate the question and we will continue, dear one. Yes?
Okay.
Yes.
So tying into what we just spoke about there as well, and the idea of parallel realities, and that potentially as we make different choices, we're shifting. Let's tie that into the law of attraction then. So by saying that we already are it, that we're looking to attract into our life, right, whatever that may be, right, is that the same process as the sort of, parallel shifting in a sense, or dimensional shifting? I'm using these words, right, and they may be the wrong words, but
okay, yes, we are all mixing and mashing all the Play-Doh colors together a little bit, but this is okay. Yes, we we enjoy this topic of your conversations of manifestation, of creation, of, hey, I'm the Almighty, so I can manifest everything. And many of you have had mixed experiences with these practices, have you not? Many can relate to having, when I really focused and I began living it and feeling it and breathing it for a sustained period of time, then it began to become closer. And some have felt, I must be doing it wrong. I think about it all the time, but maybe you're not pulling in that energy and maybe nothing happens. And there is the whole range of in between. So the one piece that we will add to the mix is, is that you ain't the only one here, baby. Yes? And this is both true and untrue. But for many beings, they do not realize maybe what capacity they have to focus on something such as a law of manifestation or attraction, and how big they themselves can get, and how many facets of themselves may not even be aware that are dragging them down because of an old belief here or an old belief here. So the first thing we would encourage is grand the scale for many beings listening on your protocol, so that, as we have said, it is an experiential process to bring yourself into a state where you are wholeheartedly vibrating in that way, where you are drawing it to you, yes, where you are pulling that energy in. But that will only draw in the energies of it, yes? Energies are always in movement and in motion. So those beings who begin working with it, who begin going to task and busying about it, doing these things, yes, we understand many frou-frou spiritual beings say, no, I don't need to do anything. But we would encourage you to get a little fluster and flurry of movement, of action, participating, and this will churn the bigger waters. Now, what is happening in relation to parallel realities? You're always a little bit phasey. Yes, there's always a little bit. So it is the consolidation and what we often speak of as the strengthening. So many beings would do well to fortify their electromagnetic field, because as you strengthen, as you focus, as you stabilize, this will help with a little bit of the, this, but no this. And then I don't know, but yes, all of this in between, yes? So there is some practicality to it, although we would say that the both principles are operating all the time. Yes, that there are phases and levels, and there is the drawing in of certain things and holding it. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I get what you're saying. Absolutely, because it's almost that idea of, the flip-flopping. That's not going to help with the energy, is it? That's not going to, really pull in what you want. And on the other hand of that, trying to figure out what your purpose is, right? Well, not even trying to figure it out, trying to go with what feels like the next part of the journey.
The other bit we will add to this, dear one, is that many beings, as we say, could go 80x, much, much bigger. So when there is only a little desire, then there is not a high pressurization. When there is when you think, I could do even more, I could be even bigger. And this does not mean you all become social media celebrities. It might be in a quiet home life type of way, but embracing even more. Then you have a little bit more energy to pressurize, to focus, and to make you shift, because you're going to have to shake a leg or two if you want to transform yourself, new habits, new behaviors, new thoughts. Yes. So sometimes we give this encouragement of aim way bigger, baby. Yes. And this can help give you a little bit more to work with. Yeah.
That's great advice. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, that's very useful. Okay. Well, the evolution of the soul. Are we, as we come and having this earthly experience, right? Is this part of the evolution of our soul in a sense? Is any life that we've lived, if such things are a reality, which I believe they are, it's all part of the evolution of the soul? And what is the evolution of the soul in the end, from your perspective?
Yes. Okay. So great questions indeed. Yes. We will unpack a little bit. Yes, because this one very much depends on your perspective. Yes, if you are one with all that is, then every lifetime is one that simply makes you up. Yes. If you are seen as only one here, then maybe other experiences would come to meet that as well. Now, from our perspective, and this is only ours, the simple perspective that I was a soul here, and then I had this life, and then I'm here, but I also have an over one, that this might be a little bit of a simplification of the larger underworkings. Yes. So what we would encourage beings at this time who are wondering about the souls and the evolutions, we understand this is a practical application, but how grand, how rich, how big can you make your life now? Yes, because many beings, and we will just say, there are some who think they were this person or that, and from our perspective, we're not necessarily. But as you move into a more collective time, any lifetime that you learn of, whether it was real or not, can influence you now, and is maybe to various extents. So we say that from some level, is this enriching your overall journey? Yes, yes. But in other ways, no, this is it. This is all you got, baby. Now, this is not, in our understanding, the absolute truth, but you can find great joy and expression with them both. Yes?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The one thing I've learned on this journey is the power of being here and not getting carried away about, what else is going on out there. I mean, it's fantastic. It's enjoyable to explore it. And it just shows the greatness of who you are, just to give you your power back. Maybe it's a good thing for that as well. But yes, there's so much power in coming, what we came here to do and having this human experience. Absolutely.
Yes. Now, we will say that the human experience is evolving quite a lot. Yes, more than most beings even notice. They have shifted way, way more. We like to say you are seeing them as this, but they are this. And most beings have not learned how to do that, how to respond in this way. Many beings want to be in a way that is much more further along than their experiences have allowed them to catch up with. This is a very, very common theme on the planet at this time, yes? So remembering that you are part of something that is evolving, that is bigger than you. It is a beautiful, joyous thing, yes?
Yeah. Thank you. Let's just touch on death as well, because that's something that we all face at one point or another throughout our lifetime. And it's the one thing a lot of us don't always want to talk about. What is death in a positive way to you? But what is death from your perspective?
Yes. Okay. We will just be very practical here. Yes. Death from our perspective is still what you might call a death. Yes. It is a shifting from one state of awareness into another. Yes. And for many, it is a dramatic shift. Yes. Not necessarily traumatic. Yes. But dramatic. Yes. And from some extent, there is a dispersal. There is we do not want to say end to one life, but there is a beginning of that energy, that expression taking on a larger and bigger form. Yes. Now, from our perspective, there is a vaster intelligence. You have on your earth now the ability to try to upload some consciousness into a mainframe to come back from it. Yes. And you could use this metaphor that there is a larger intelligence in reality that can absorb and reintegrate and redistribute everything that is you, that is in you, that you are a part of. Yes. So normally we would say in this situation, dear one, there is no death. You need not be fearful. Life is eternal. Get used to living forever, baby, because it ain't going to get old. Yes, some beings want to get out of this life because they think, I'll be done. And boy, do they have something coming to them. Yes, life is everlasting. Yet we will at this time, to help people appreciate what they've got, encourage you to make the most of your life here, because how many beings, as much as you have connected or channeled, or the few that have gone and come back, how many commonly just show up again? Hey, I'm Joe. Hey, Zach's back. Yes, it is not a common experience and is not likely to become soon. So we say, make the most of this life, for it is a very unique expression. Yes?
Yes, and some lives are more challenging than others, and you kind of took the words out of my mouth there, because I was going to ask about appreciation, but you kind of spoke to appreciate what you've got, even in what may be classed as from your perspective, the worst of times. Easier said than done, but yes, appreciation, I do absolutely concur with that, and compassion for ourselves and others.
Yes,
And that's important.
you are swinging for the fences on all the big themes that we see as well for many beings at this time. Yes, yes,
Yes. Yeah.
yes.
Well, these are core kind of things that we're all experiencing in one way or another right now, aren't they? In these times, absolutely. And fear being one of them, overcoming fear as well. I mean, I've always felt that fear is false evidence appearing real, right? But it has a purpose. What is fear to yourselves? How do you, from your perspective, what is fear?
Okay, let us see if we could find the good words, because we would say fear is a little bit like a game of hide and seek, and we say that underlying everything is excitement wanting to come out. Yes, but there are times in a realm of energies, of shifts, of changes. As we have said, there is an in-breath, there is an out-breath, and sometimes there is a drawing away from what you might experience and know as the integration, the connection. Yes. However, when we look at your words, your words are very big, meaning that they hold so much in them. Yes, these words of death, of ego, of fear. So when we look at your word fear, we do not even see a top to the end of what it could possibly even mean. So in a way, it is a very interesting concept that humanity has developed, maybe not the only ones, but we'll keep our view localized that there is something called fear and that it's this and that and this and that. But we are often encouraging beings to open this up, become a little more specific, as you have found when you take the big amorphous fear and you look in, you go, actually, wait, maybe I won't call this fear anymore. Maybe this is now something else. Yes, it is very interesting. Yes. So a little hide and go seek with the lights off, eh? Yes, in this way.
Yes, absolutely. And then let's truck in there as well the power of forgiveness and what that does to a person's soul, and maybe the person who's receiving that forgiveness as well, from that deeper, unforeseen, unseen, connection between both people as well that are holding anything negative.
Yes, we would say that the practice of forgiveness is a beautiful one. We often come with the message of, dear ones, stay uplifted. And beings would say, Xoltal, how come you don't say forgive everyone? And we say, because we're taking you to the end of where forgiveness goes. Yes, some people believe that they need a process to go through, and this is the case in some cases. But where forgiveness gets you is into a new opportunity, a wholehearted ability to accept something new. And so when you speak of bringing in the vibrations you want, to let go and have the courage, the permission. Yes, we are often saying, here is a stack of permission slips for you, dear ones. Go ahead and write your own prescriptions. Yes, because this will wildly advance your adventure. But the practice of forgive it, for my peace was never taken away, as this one likes the saying, yes, in this way, that this is a beautiful undoing and ability to adapt and change very rapidly. Yes?
Yes. Well, let's just move or steer that forgiveness to another aspect of the same thing, really. But healing the past and, living fully now, letting, how do we get that past to stop prodding us and, with all the mistakes that we made and the things that we've done? What is, as well, the greatness of living fully now compared to always living in the past, or maybe some of us are the future, but let's stick with the past.
Very well. Okay. So dealing with past Kung Fu 101. Yes, let's begin. Yes. In this way, there is often a simplified message of stay present. Yes, the past is the past, let it go. And we believe that this is a very powerful tool. However, much of what we share with people is maybe a little bit more specific instruction and scientific understanding about your connections to past. As we often see and explain it, time nodes, as you can imagine, a time landscape. As you would have a landscape of a mountain or of a scene, whatever comes to you, that from our perspective, time is very much this way. And just as you imagine your brains, another way to see time is as neurons firing, or time nodes or points, and electricities are flowing to and from them. So if a considerable amount of your energy is stuck in a different energetic center or point in time, then there is a way of going back to uncover, to open that, to free the little kitty from the bear trap, if you will, yes, and make sure that all is okay. So the the healing time, what you call the quantum healing modalities. We are a big fan of everybody learning these, this becoming as common knowledge as brushing your teeth, so that you can help loosen yourself up and stay present and ready, yes? But on the other side, we will also say that plotting energies through time, taking a beautiful past moment and bringing it into your energy and drawing that energy, because that moment is eternal. You could always draw that quality from a certain time, and you could plot ahead and plant and arrange beautiful energy just as you would a flower bed. It does not come in the summer, it is planted early. So as human beings begin to work with what we call the energetic time sciences more and create time tunnels and connections in these ways, this is a very helpful skill set to have from a practical perspective, we would say. Yes? Yes.
Yeah. Now thank you. We talk about, well, I guess I've had people talk to me about the power of love. Love is the key to so many things in a sense. But how do we sort of love ourselves and love the life that we've got, regardless of where we're at on the journey?
Yes. And this is why we started. So let us offer everyone again. Here you go. Big stack of permission slips. And everyone says, even though X, I can love myself. Y. Yes. And even though it might be, then I can still do this. Yes. And so this is an ever-evolving process, we would say, of learning to be more and more grateful and okay with yourself and others. And for some, they will go through a period of being okay with themselves because they disconnect from what others say. And some will go through periods of saying, I need to disconnect from what I have even said about myself to try something new and fresh. Yes?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, shifting a bit here, because I know human time, we're well over time, but I so appreciate you holding this energy and letting us have this. So let's move to a point in time right now in the sense of current affairs, and let's go to gun crime in a sense. And we've just experienced another mass school shooting over here in the US. And what is this perspective, in a sense, from your perspective where you're at, on these tragic events?
Yes. Okay. One moment, please. Let us dial it in a little bit. Yes? You ask a good question we do not get asked often. One moment, please. Yes? We are just going to do a little reading and spin the globe a little bit, because your topic of gun violence and where and what you speak of at this moment in time is very different on different places on your planet at this time. Yes, the presence of weaponry, yes, let us call it that, of this one variety, and it being available in some places and not others. And then what you find is that, okay, underlying all of these, what are the desires? Yes. What are the desires? Yes. Okay. So when we look at this, there's a few things going on, and we will try to give a very simple perspective. From some, to have the guns, you can't take them away, baby, because this is an ideology that is to be considered. It is from many a perspective of fear and not wanting to lose. Yes. Of holding, gripping. Yes. Yes, from some that are involved in these, I feel hurt so bad. And most of these beings are not just this way on their own. There are, from what we see, geometries, pressures, societal, energetic, maybe their lifetime, but also the energies of the planet that are orchestrated and pointed in very strong ways where these outbursts occur. Yes. And although you see many of them, you do not see all of the shootings that occur. And if you saw all the shootings compared to all the acts of love, it is actually quite small. Yes. However, what we would say our takeaway from this is that to learn to truly care for those in your life. And what do we mean by this? We don't just mean as a thought. We mean that you have actualized their safety, their security, their hope and future, their current health status, that these are a lot of factors that You could say, I checked the box, they ate today, or they have a home, they are loved, but you find, these factors are often not enough. So from what we see, the great opportunity is how to care for yourselves and your families and your other beings in a way that is really next level. Yes, there are some beings on the planet that are doing it, but it has not necessarily been adopted institutionally or enforced or encouraged. Yes. So from our perspective, what we see with the pa-pow, pa-pow, the shooting off is actually a pattern that exists in many different ways in many different places, but it manifests in this one. Yes. Now, we will get into the topic of, wow, this is a dangerous place, is it not, this planet? Yes. And it is, we will just share from our perspective so people can hear, much safer than many think or are shown. Yes. It is a much more beautiful and loving place than maybe many are conditioned. And we understand that from some, they will have a whole line of reasons why Xoltal, you're wrong. Yes, no, it's this and this, and it's a very dangerous world. And we say, well, this is the beauty of perception, is it not? It can be seen many ways. Yes, but the caring and loving for others is at the heart of this, is it not?
It is. And of course, our hearts go out to any families that have lost loved ones in the most recent tragedies like that and other events that have taken place. And yeah, I mean, we can all talk about, we agree on certain things where we choose to come down, we choose our family. But, when you're disconnected, like we all are in some respects, we have to go through the grieving process because that's part of the human experience. And it's a normal thing. But it can be challenging, can't it? It can be very, very difficult through a situation like that. But I guess there's a lot of good also that comes out of some of those situations into what it pushes these people to go and do to help others in ways that they would never have done had that tragedy not taken place. But, of course, if they could choose, they would rather it would never have taken place. Of course they would. But I'm just saying there's always something that comes out of these things. There's a growth, isn't there, for the soul?
Yes, there often is the opportunity for it, we will say, yes. And you hear of some examples and know many that do grow through it. And there are some that have a much harder time and maybe do not have the same sort of awakening and growth process through it. We often give a lot of love and compassion for beings at this time because as easy as it is to say, stay uplifted and you are the love and the light and the joy. And as much as these energies can uplift anyone in any situation, we do remind you at times that the same thing about hey, how come I'm not a millionaire yet? I've thought about it. I journaled it. Well, there's a lot of influences, yes, at this time. There sure are, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're going to end this on a conversation probably on relationships as well, right? Which I've not talked about much in the past. And I thought, well, why not talk with you about it, right? Well, we talked about healing the past and living fully in the now, and I think obviously one thing we come in for is relationships. It's a key thing. What would you say from your perspective, if we could look at entering a relationship? What would be your advice from this other sort of beyond the veil perspective? Compared to how we do enter relationships?
Very wonderful question indeed. Let us take a moment and let us all here listening take a big breath. And feel not just up the body, but maybe stretch and bring it up a little bit. Yes, when we chat, the energies come down and down. And so we just open it up. And what a good segue to having a relationship, is it not? Yes? Yes. Now, as you know, you are always in many, many relationships, yes? And we would say that one perspective of what you call consciousness is just the many, many relationships, yes? That this is what it is, yes? Now, on a practical level, the relationships are one of the fundamental pillars that we often speak about with beings, yes? They are a mirror for you, are they not? Yes? And when you are come together with an alignment, there is a great opportunity to do more with 1 + 1 = many, then it equals 2, as you know. Yes, yes. Now, at these times, we will just give a few cliff notes, if we will, on a little checklist of what to check in your relationships, your new ones, your outgoing, your incoming, your long time ones. Yes, yes. Okay. So from one perspective, you could say that this is an opportunity in awakening time. Yes. So through that process, there is a self-discovery, and many people you may draw in to help you discover about yourself, to help you discover about something in the world, to help you maybe help the other person. So if you are aware that to what extent a relationship is simply helping you discover, that is beneficial. Now, another component is building, and there is some overlap here. There are some relationships at this time that are going to help you build. So rather than an inward look, this is a creative one. Yes. And we would say that these are beautiful. There are many, many beings on the planet like looking to, I want to connect with high vibe. I want to do something incredible. And what we encourage is to actually pull that energy back and find some of the thinner threads. And what connections would truly help you grow? Meaning some partnerships, it might look good. Oh, yes, this lines up with this business and this feels good. Or you're this type of person and this, but there is not the pointing exactly in the same direction so that if you overlay it, you head in the same path. So we often say that choose the relationships that are going to help you and your vehicle move forward. Yes. And this much of a difference is a big one. Yes.
Yeah. What are some of those key things, do you think, of trying to figure that out, of like, well, how are we going in the same direction? I mean, practically, I know, you can ask those, you can interview each other, right, to see, what we have an alignment or not. But when you first meet someone, it's not always so obvious, is it?
Well, it is and it is not, is it? Yes. Have you not met a person or two before and all the lights go off and Yes. 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 So at the outset, yes, and we do not mean to make everyone's mind always thinking, does this person benefit me? This is not the idea, yes, but there are so many beings on this planet right now. And in the coming times, there's going to be even more opportunity to be connected. And we don't just mean to know that there's other people because you scroll with them, but to know them because you grow with them. Yes, that to really know in your heart your direction, what it is you desire, and to realize that this may shift, this may change, this may evolve. So it is an ongoing figuring out. Yes? Yes. Yes. But at this time, if we could share this, that is, there are many, 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 many more beings that align with your higher purpose and your higher calling than you might think. Yes, many people, and we say this often, you have no idea how big billions and billions and billions and billions are. Yes, even your minds, when you think it's such a small thing, and it's very vast, very vast. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've all got different wants when it comes to relationships. And like you say, yes, you would just know as well. Some people may want less sex, right? That sex may not be as an important aspect of it. And just sticking on the theme of sex as well, actually, a relationship, some people would view a relationship when it comes to sex as it's just there to, for creating more of us, where others would say, well, that's not how I view it. I enjoy the act of sex, and I wouldn't view it as just for recreation. But I guess, what would be your perspective on that issue?
Yes.
Subject.
On this topic, we understand it comes up in relation to relationships, yes? But we will address it from this way, that we are often looking at things in terms of their capacity and their quality to hold certain frequencies, yes? So when it comes to exploring what you would call sexual energy or a love for life, because these are all connected in the spectrum, yes? Yes, that this is a very powerful and potent energy that even some people who say, oh, I don't want this or I don't want that, that we still encourage you to work with. And many people have known that you can evolve this energy into higher ways. But the relationships that we will just say it, make you feel good, that nourish your heart, that nourish your soul. And maybe there is a sensual or sexual energy, and there does not even have to be the act, as you know, to build this energy. You might even feel it with someone who you are maybe not interacting with in that way. But we would encourage, just as we say, many things on the planet are going to become as common as brushing your teeth. And being able to work with your sensuality, your sexuality, these energies, and orchestrate them and have them be less of a, maybe for some it has been a bit of a disaster or not fully understood or utilized experience, that these are great opportunities. And we do encourage you to study within yourself what it is that calls you. Study from, maybe there are others who you align with for a time, but at this time on this planet, there are many things being explored, many things being seen. So there is a little bit of energy of maybe it is this, maybe it is that. Yes. And so to be more clear on where you are in the discovering, awakening, creating journey is essential. Yes.
Yeah, and when it comes to that sexual energy as well with another partner, and this could be gay or straight as well, but just on the lines of the question is, you don't know sometimes when two people meet up what they've been up to in their past lives. And that can have an influence of why you connected with this certain person that you did, in a sense. Does that play a role? Like, maybe, for many lifetimes you were, locked away and the key was trucked away and you was in a monastery for many lifetimes because you had locked yourself away from, having intimate relationships. So, you come bursting in, to this lifetime, literally, and obviously sex would be a big thing from that perspective. What my point is in saying this, or you could have had past lives where you have suffered a lot of sexual trauma and violence. So that plays itself into to how you feel about it. So is it right? Do you think what I'm saying? Do you feel that's right? That there's other things taking place sometimes as to why you feel certain ways about sex.
Yes, generally this is the case. Now we will add to the mix that you also have this collective. So as we have said, many beings might come up with an idea of why something is this or because of this and because of that. But also there is the fact that the people down the street at some level are experiencing you, the generations that have come before, the people on the other side of the pond, as they say. Yes, that all of these things are also influencing your experience. So whenever two beings meet, there is much there to explore. Yes, there is near infinite to explore and understand there. And this is the beauty of these times and having opportunity to interact. Now, we will say that when you have bodies, your interactions are a little bit different than when you are not in bodies. However, you can still have not in body experiences with others, and this is a big part of it. Yes.
Interesting. So, and very finally, let's just move that conversation as well to people who work in the sex industry as well, sex workers in all sorts. OnlyFans, for example, which has given the power back to the content creator, in a sense, back to the woman, right? We can be very judgy in this in some respects, can't we? But there's a reason why that soul's doing what they're doing, and are they living in purpose? If you ask that person, he or her, they would say, yes, I am. Some other people in this community may say, that's not spiritual.
Well, we are often laughing at as we call it, the frou-frou nation. Yes, the spiritual flying folks. Yes. And we say this from a place of love and joy, because there is as much within this community as there is judgment of what other communities do. Yes. Wherever you have humans gathering, it's going to be a show indeed. Yes. So what we can say on this is that one being's expression of who they are and what they are showing is affecting the whole. It is also in part because of the whole, and it is also constantly evolving and going through it itself. Yes, if you ask many of these beings a while back what their perspective and life goal may be, it's very different than it is now. And when you ask them in 10, 20, 30 years' time, it will have evolved then. So what you see at this moment is a unique expression and stepping into the ability of beings to live much bigger lives. Now, you have always had this ability, but it is becoming demonstrated to many that, wow, I could do this on this level. I could do this on this. I can communicate this with here. And this is opportunity and this is available. So it is a very enthralling time. And we do encourage the others to be a little slow to roll with the judgy. Yes? Yes. At the same time, yes, maybe some discernment for yourself and what life you are creating. As we have said, there is so much going on the planet, so many beings, so many different worlds occurring. And even within yourself, there are many worlds occurring. Yes, are there not?
Oh, absolutely. We've touched upon that, haven't we, with the idea of parallel realities? Yeah. And you don't know sometimes what energy is coming in from where. Maybe that's strong.
Yes,
that's affecting.
So people would say, Xoltal, what if I am making it all up? And we say, you are, baby. Yes.
Yes.
All of it. Eh?
Yeah.
Are you not? Yes.
So really you was, okay, well, that's the answer to that. But then with anything, there's addictions that go on, isn't there? You could say, well, pornography, there's a lot of negativity in the sense of people's addictions, but isn't there addictions in anything? And, okay, then what's your perspective on pornography?
Yes, very well. Okay, so it is one of the channels we watch less that is broadcast from your planet at this time. Yes? Yes? Okay. But let us put it in the context of maybe a direction. Yes? Because when you say the word that you use, this is not actually, from our perspective, an apt description to describe the multifaceted existence that is actually current on the planet. This phrase is maybe a little bit outdated. Now, we understand that there still are these types of engagements and distributions and entertainments or creations going on, yes? However, from our perspective, just as maybe your news portrays things a certain way and exaggerates it a little bit bigger, yes, that the true heart of the planet is actually a very tender one, that most beings desire an intimacy, even if they cannot handle it. And so from our perspective to the role this medium plays, it's hard to look at it on its own without a being's sole direction. Because if you are a human being and interested in sexual exploration, then at some point you will come across this. And some energies are going to be darker, but some might awaken in you something that is quite powerful. So there is a lot there. Now, do not get us wrong. In general, we are not saying, hey, it's all okay, but we are also saying, open it up. Take this label and this word and there's a lot more intricacy and interesting things in there. Yes?
God, to a point you're even saying, well, you could scale it down to just, okay, well, there's a bigger reason why there's an interactor there, and each interactor's got a different reason for it and a different light. There's all sorts of things going on in their life for that. To call it good or bad, you don't know, well, that's very judgy, isn't it? And then for whatever they're watching, the person that took place in the interaction of it, right, they've also got a life story about how they got there, and some, as you say, some positive and some negative. And it's, that's to be thought about. I'd have to think about what you're saying there. Yeah, that's okay. Well, that's interesting.
Now, what we could say to little maybe bow tie this part of it is, it comes back to, what do you want to use your energy for? Yes. What direction are you headed? So there are some where their interaction with this maybe is a little of this, a little of that. There are some where it is pulling them down and they actually want to redirect. So when you get into any area of what you might call addiction, or what we would call the cycling of energy in certain patterns, it always, your energy is cycling and circling in some sort of way. Yes. So you have even heard many inspiring beings on your planet say something along the lines of be addicted to love. Yes. Let this become your consuming pattern and habit. But we would take a little more free form and say, there is a tendency for these things to occur. So how do you align towards these tendencies going toward your highest and greatest good? Yes.
And only you can answer that, because that's a personal journey, isn't it? And it's what is it in purpose? Do you love it, what you're doing? Is it a passion? It's all these things, isn't it? And is it knowingly hurting anyone and yourself?
Yes, and there is a little bit of hurt to this, but what we will tell you is, from our perspective, it might not be sun-solar cycles thousands of years, but in your coming future, there will be beautiful expressions, evolved expressions of sexual content and engagement that is not what you think it is now, nor would many beings now be able to vibrate with it. But there is an evolution occurring along this spectrum.
Spiritual kind of content, in a way, from that perspective.
Yes, but we would not even say spiritual. We would just say maybe more genuine, maybe more real, maybe more having a soul's purpose and passion put into it. Yes. And also, in a way, in some ways, the more that evolves, the less sexual and has that energy. It is more just a beautiful expression. Yes. Is it not?
Well, yeah. I mean, why don't they make movies where people are, actually genuinely making love rather than anything? I mean, that's, but that's where we are at this core level, isn't it, right now, as a society? Yeah.
And that's why it's coming out, isn't it? Huh?
Literally. Yeah. Yes? Absolutely. Yeah. Well, look, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. And I know we've been all around the houses there, but hey, look, I'm not always going to have this chance to speak to someone like yourself, so I appreciate it.
And we very much appreciate you. You understand that from our perspective, one of the joys of ours, and we have pushed this dear one to do more, is to give people the opportunity to hear in commonplace these conversations, wider perspectives, bigger, more joyful, more mind-stretching perspectives, and not all of them are coming from channeled beings, although we would say that many beings that are bringing them are channeling something.
It's a form of it, yeah, of course, right, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yes. Well, I've really, enjoyed having those deeper conversations with you. I didn't know we were going to be here for 2 hours almost, but you know what? It just goes to show what Zach is capable of doing when he brings his energy through and lets it just flow as well. So that's incredible. And maybe it stretched him to think that, there's more to this, what he's got, that's available in the pot. So just thank you so much for coming through.
Yes, we say it is a joy to be here, with you indeed. And we thank you for all of your tinkering and wiring of the circuit board to line things up, to curate them in a certain way. It is wonderfully done and delightfully so. We thank you for this. Yes. Very well. Yes? Okay. So we greet you with the love and the light of the one infinite creator, and we say go forth with joy. Turn up the dial on the joy a little bit, dear ones. We love you. Adonai.
Well, Zach, I just want to let you just come in there. I just want to say thank you so much for all this extra time that you've given us right now, which was not planned for. And that was some really interesting answers to subjects that I didn't know we were going to completely touch upon. But hey, you've graciously given us the time to really go in depth here as well with some stuff. And that was interesting. I don't know how you felt about that.
I thank you. I'm feeling it, and I was actually pretty present for a good portion of that. So heard, and you asked some things that do not always come up that often. So I really enjoyed that. And I think
I've never asked some of those questions neither. So.
Oh, have you not? No, I was like, man, I missed that, guys. But honestly, of all the folks and channelers out there, I think that one of the joys I have is how practical they like to get.
Just goes to show, didn't it? In that, absolutely.
Yeah, it really. That was a really cool, interesting conversation.
That was, yeah. No, they had, that's very interesting, actually, what they had to say. Okay, well, thank you. Now, your website, just before we finish here, your website is?
Yes, it is Xoltal.com. That's with an Xoltal. And you can find it on all the social medias out there too, sharing clips and segments. And I've got events. We do a lot of free gatherings, paid deep dive workshops, private sessions, trainings, all sorts of mix and match. And the other thing I've been doing is the Xoltal Show, which is where they come in and they interview channelers channeling. So channel beings chatting with each other is kind of the fun we're having there. And that's been a real hoot, man. Yeah. A real hoot.
Well, we'll make sure, again, that's all on your YouTube channel. So yes, that's been coming up on the screen. We'll make sure all the links are in the description below for this video. Zach, I just want to thank you so much for coming on.
Brother, I am so grateful for this opportunity. I mean, as you know, you are kind of a legend in these eras, you know, in these times and in these ways. And I'm so grateful for the work you did. And then I didn't realize you were still doing it. And I've been tuning in, and my partner, Kate, actually got into channeling through your work and early cool. creation. So like, it's just funny cool. how we end up here.
Well, so send my regards to her. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Well, that's always lovely to hear that. Thank you for that. Yeah. All meant to be. Well, thank you very much.
Hey, brother. Very grateful.